Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar of the Gender Equality Academy. My name is Vasia Madesi, and I'm working as a project manager in ViLabs, an innovation ball motivating and facilitating young researchers and entrepreneurs to challenge the traditional innovation system in Greece and Cyprus. And I'm also the deputy coordinator of this project. So before we start today, I would like to start by sharing a few words with you about the Gender Equality Academy and what this project is about. So welcome, and I'm about now to share my screen and start the presentation. So, what Gender Equality Academy is about. Let's start with a brief introduction. Currently, there are many gender equality programs, projects, and a great gain knowledge and experience about gender equality. Although gender analysis remains rarely appropriated within research projects, at the same time, large differences among research performing organizations in various countries exist, and there is a small proportion of researchers and practitioners that are familiar with theoretical and methodological concepts of gender and feminist scholarship. What G Academy proposes is actually a different way, a more holistic approach. We are an Horizon 2020 project which develops and implements a high quality capacity building program on gender equality in research and innovation and higher education. And this is the first in a series of webinars that will follow up. At the moment, we are offering in-person trainings, interactive and participatory workshops and webinars until the end of the year that are available in our website, geacademy.eu. And next year, and for the following 2 years, we will also offer a series of summer schools in Madrid, Dublin, Budapest, open collaborative courses that will be online, and train the trainer sessions at the same time. Okay, this is the partnership. We are a consortium of partners, 12 organizations representing 11 European countries. And this is a very short overview. Thank you very much for the attention, and I will now give the floor on my colleague Maria Sangiuliano, so we can start with this webinar. At the same time, I would like to inform you that we are live tweeting about this very webinar. And without any further delay, Maria.
Yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. Let me share my screen straight away. Okay. So again, welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Maria Sangiuliano. I am the CEO and Research Director of Smart Venice. With my colleague Natasha Sega, we are the G Academy partners in charge of planning and organizing the webinar series, but also the e-learning component of the G Academy, therefore the distributed online collaborative courses that will follow. Today, we will be the moderators of this online event. Welcome to the Inception webinar of our series. We hope that you will find your participation useful. We are very happy because up to date we had 57 registered participants from 21 countries, even far beyond the European Union. So as I was mentioning, this first webinar is part of a series. The goal of the webinar series in G Academy is actually to make knowledge, tools, good practice examples available to a wider audience in a compact format, but still experimenting some interactive functionalities to make it more lively and participatory. until the end of the year 2021, we are going to propose you 12 webinars on several topics, which will all be linked to the related in-person trainings and workshops on similar issues. So the program is well aligned to have a webinar introducing parts leading to the in-person trainings and workshops for those who can then attend the face-to-face events. Today's webinar, as you know, is dedicated to introducing gender equality plans. We have two main learning objectives. The first one, we want to familiarize you with policy frameworks, facts and figures on gender in research in the EU to get a practical understanding of how gender equality plans can work as means for promoting institutional change. We also want to present and discuss some good examples of universities, research institutions, which committed to implement institutional change for gender equality via gender equality plans. Three presentations will follow. Nathalie Wuiame from Yellow Window will mainly refer to the first learning objectives, while Chiara Oppi from University of Ferrara and Amaia Lusa Garcia from the Politecnic University of Catalonia will present how their institutions developed gender equality plans. A few technicalities. The platform we are using is really intuitive, but please take care of the following issues. We will have 3 distinct Q&A sessions to allow you commenting and making questions. And this will happen via the chat box only. You can see the icon, the chat icon in the bar below. And this, so please don't use the raise your hand functionality, but make use of the chat box icon only. This will open a text box to the right side of your screen when you click on it. While the Q&A icon is to be used for technical issues only in case you have any. When you type a question, before typing a question, please select the all panelists and attendees options. Please do not pose questions to the panelists only. And finally, for those of you who might need, my colleague is now sharing in the chat a link for keyboard shortcuts to use the platform without a mouse. I would like to give the floor now to Nathalie Wuiame. Nathalie is a managing director of CESEP and lecturer at Rennes University. She has a broad experience, more than 25 years of experience in gender equality. She also took part to the development of the Gender in Research toolkit conducted by Yellow Window and much more. But Nathalie, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for participating in this webinar. After a brief insight on gender inequalities in Europe in the field of research and a brief presentation of the EU policy framework, I will focus my presentation on gender equality plan as a tool for institutional change. This is really important to make the link between these two. I will then present the GEAR tool, which is a step-by-step guide for developing and implementing gender equality plans. Now, before we start, I have a question for you that should normally appear on the screen, which is, can you estimate the percentage of women in a typical academic career in grade A? So grade A is the highest grade, so it corresponds to full professor. Can you vote on the percentage? Can we have the answers to the pool? Okay, so quite a number say that is 24%, 45% say this is 24%, and then some are very pessimistic with 12%, some are a bit optimistic with 35%. In fact, okay, close this. In fact, as you, oops, managed to. Okay, as you see it on this slide, which in fact is extracted from the GE figures that is published by the European Commission quite regularly, and this is from the last issue in 2018, you see that the proportion of women in grade A is 24%. In fact, in 2013, it was 22%. So, so you see that there is still vertical segregation. So that means that the highest hierarchical positions are usually occupied by men. In fact, if you look at the specific field, which is the science and engineering, you will see that here you have even less women at grade A. So you have only 15% of women at grade A. And you see the same type of curve, which is going down for women. If you see grade C, grade B, grade A, and it goes up for men. So this is just one illustration of inequalities you can still see in research and innovation. There are obviously others. To get more sense of them, I would just ask you to go to this useful tool that is the SHE figure publication that present horizontal segregation as well, so the difference in participation of women and men within scientific fields, but also occupation, also the difference in participation in different economic sectors. So that's really a very important tool to highlight inequalities in Europe. There will be also, as mentioned in the introduction, some training that will be specifically on gender inequalities and look more carefully on this. Now, briefly on the European policies promoting gender equality in research. First, I have to remind you, but I'm sure you know that, that this is not new, that the European policies promote gender equality in research, but also generally. I mean, we have an article since the Treaty of Rome, so since the beginning on equal pay. We had a number of directives in the 70s and 80s on gender equality in the labor market, in education, in pension, in social security. We have now a recast directive of 2006 that in fact compiled part of these directives. So they apply obviously as well to gender equality in research.
Nathalie, sorry for interrupting you. Could you please set your presentation in a full screen mode? Thank you. No problem. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry for that. In terms of gender equality, specifically in research, I would also just want to highlight to you that in 1999, the European Commission adopted a communication on women in science. This was at the time the 5th EU framework program, research program. So in fact, from this program until now, in Horizon 2020, you will see some provisions relating to gender equality in research and innovation. And now to go to the gender, to now, in the European research area, that is called ERA, but also in Horizon 2020, there are three main objectives that are pursued by European policies. First, to foster equality in scientific careers. Second, to ensure gender balance in decision-making processes and bodies. And third, to integrate a gender dimension in research and innovation content, which mean addressing both men's and women's reality and consider gender-specific research to fill knowledge gaps. So that's the three main objectives. There are a number of documents that, in fact, operationalize this. Just looking at one aspect here, mentioned in the European Research Area Roadmap, where you can see the importance given to gender equality in research performing organizations as member states and associated countries should develop policies on gender equalities in a research performing organization and regularly monitoring their effectiveness and adjusting measures as necessary. These are all elements we will also find later on in the presentation, and I'm sure as well in the examples that you will have with the two other presenters, the importance of monitoring and adjusting measures. So that's the responsibility for member states and associated countries to support research performing organizations in developing gender equality, and obviously for research performing organizations, they should enhance their policies for gender equality in research and ensure their implementation. So what should be the specific focus, the special attention in these policies? It should be looking at areas where women are underrepresented, for instance, in senior positions, as we have just seen, and in research management, but also to funding schemes. Studies in the past have shown that they can be biased in terms of selection of research proposal led by women, and disciplines where the imbalance are greatest. Now let's go on institutional change, which is the core of my intervention. And what is important with institutional change is to be clear that within an institutional change, the approach focuses on the organization. So you can say, stop fixing women, now start to fix the system. Look at the institution. So the strategy should be to remove the obstacles to gender equality that are inherent to the research system itself, but also adapt the practices of the organization. And in terms of objective, I mean, this is also coming back to the objectives we have mentioned before, which are enhance women's representation and retention at all levels of their scientific career, and to promote the integration of the gender dimension in research and innovation content. To address structural production and reproduction of inequalities in research, it is crucial to act upon mechanisms that produce this inequality and then should be changed. So the areas of intervention that have been identified are organizational culture, reconciliation of work and private life. I mean, a recent directive has been adopted at European level on this topic, and this is about caring responsibility not only for children but also for the elderly. It's about also flexible working time in terms also of location, flexible location. Areas of intervention can also be on recruitment, selection, and career progression, looking at formal and informal criteria use and potential gender bias also in assessing performance and capacity of a person. It's also about leadership and decision-making, sexual and gender-based harassment, and finally, integration again of a gender perspective within the research content itself. To promote institutional change towards more gender equality, the Commission insists on using the tool of gender equality plan and support this adoption of mechanisms by research performing organizations. So what is a gender equality plan? As defined by the European Commission, a gender equality plan consists of a set of actions aiming at first, conducting impact assessment or audits of procedures and practices to identify gender bias. It is really important to audit very carefully the way the organization is functioning. As I said already, the focus is on the organization. Then we have to identify and implement innovative strategy to correct any bias that have been appearing when conducting the assessment and audit. And finally, we have to set targets and monitor the progress via appropriate indicators. It is clear that the scope of a gender equality plan may strongly vary. It will depend on your own research environment, on the field you are working, the discipline you are working on. So there is not just one standard gender equality plan. But what is clear is that a gender equality plan includes a set of action with different degree of complexity. The set of action should articulate a strategic view aimed at achieving gender equality in the organization. So it's important to note that the gender equality plan is not the mere adoption of general objectives fostering gender equality. We have seen that in the past. I mean, that can be a very important step to mention in your documents that the gender equality is the objective, is an important objective, but that's not enough. A gender equality plan is not either a broader strategy or plan including a gender dimension among others, like a diversity or anti-discrimination plan. It is really important to see gender not as part of a, it's not just women, it's men and women and their relation. And within diversity, you also have to take gender as its intersectional dimension. So that means that for all grounds and discrimination ground as well, you have to think about men and women, because sometimes you know that for handicap, for example, the norm is the male handicap, and you also forget about the specificities that can that women facing a handicap can have. So now I have another question for you that should appear. Do you have any experience in implementing a gender equality plan? And when I'm asking you that, it's in view of what I've just mentioned about what a gender equality plan. So waiting for your votes. Okay. Can I have? No. So the majority, no. And then we have some that, yeah, it's quite balanced in terms of some experience and a direct experience for 5 participants. Okay. So what I want to say about gender equality plan is that, in fact, you can break this in different steps and phases, and each requires specific types of intervention and knowledge also probably. And you can see first that there is an analysis phase, then there is be a planning phase, and finally an implementation phase. You can also present it as steps. And that's what the gear tool is doing. So that's really a presentation of the gear tool. You will have later in the end of the presentation the link, but you can find all these steps there. I will briefly go through them. So first, getting started. It is really the first step is to reflect on your context. I mean, you can be tempted because you have been to a conference, you participate to a webinar, and you think, oh, this is really an interesting gender equality plan that was presented to me. I will just copy and paste it in my organization and it will work. Obviously, this is not true. You have really to start to look carefully at your own context. What is also important is to find support. And by support, I mean allies. Allies internal to the organization, but also outside. That's also support in terms of expertise. Do you have gender expertise in-house, or do you have to find some people who can support you in terms of gender expertise? Then, still in this phase of this first phase of analyzing, you have the step of analyzing and assessing the state of play. And for that, sorry, we cannot see with this, you have to analyze data. I mean, you have heard, I'm sure, about the importance of having sex-disaggregated data and to go as far as possible into the details of all the types of functions and posts you have in your organization. But it's also looking at existing measures and policies and perhaps past measures and policies to identify what worked well, what worked less well, and that is really important to assess as well these type of measures. Then you are ready to set up a gender equality plan. And here it's important to get inspiration from others and to see what they have done and what are the difficulties they face and see how they can be countered. So you have to define realistic objectives and measures. I mentioned the smart aspect of them. You have also to agree on clear staff responsibilities, who is doing what, etc. So that's some aspects that are very important when you set up your gender equality plan. Then comes the stage of the implementation. You have to implement your gender equality plan. And we have seen in the past, and that is why then in the gear tool, this is really an important point, that sometimes it's just it's additional measures not really embedded in your institution, in your organization. So it's really important when you start implementing to embed your measure in the organization. So for example, if you do, you said that you should reinforce the capacity of all the people within the organization, you can do specific gender training, but you have also to look at all the types of training you are delivering and ensure that there gender is taken into account. It's also good to give some visibility to your gender equality plan and to be prepared to face obstacles and resistance. When you do the implementation of a gender plan, it's also key to monitor your progress and evaluate what are the changes that appear to happen. So this is really important as well for monitoring progress. And then you are ready to what comes after. So that's the new cycle. You will see also from the examples that are presented that a gender equality plan is not just a one-off exercise. You have to ensure its sustainability and continue work on it. Success factors for institutional change. I mean, it's clear that a number of elements appear to be particularly important to support your work on gender equality in research and innovation. And we see in research that when these elements are present, they lead to a more efficient and effective change in the organization. You can also see the success factors, in fact, as basic requirements to ensure that your gender equality action will be more resilient and impactful. So first, get support from top leadership and senior management. That's something you will hear quite a lot. I mean, without the support of top leaders and senior management, this is quite difficult to arrive to an institutional change. Ensure there is a gender equality body that is well equipped and well located. Well equipped, that means in terms of human resources, in terms of time, in terms of expertise. Well located, it's also to be in the organization at the point located where you can influence the rest of the organization. Involve different categories of stakeholders, embedded in existing structure and management procedure, make sex disaggregated data available, set clear targets and practical objectives, develop competencies, monitor and evaluate practice. Be flexible and resilient. I mean, this is really something that is also important. You will face obstacles, so you have to be resilient. This is the gear tool link that you see in the screen, and you have also a screenshot of it. So thank you very much for hearing my presentation. Hope you find it interesting, and I'm now ready to answer some questions.
Okay. Thank you a lot, Nathalie, for your interesting presentation. Now it's your time to make your question to Nathalie. We have just a couple of minutes left, so please, if you have some questions, type them in the chat box, and I will straight away read them and give the floor back to Nathalie to answer. We have someone that thanks you a lot. It was really clear, Nathalie.
Okay, I'm looking at what is here. Sorry, because I see now that a lot of people ask me to put in full screen. I'm really sorry. I was in my presentation.
Okay, you can find. Okay, we have a question. Just leaving the time to type it. You can, for the next Q&A session, you can also type it during the presentation. Okay. We have a question that asks to Nathalie, which are, in your experience, the organization bodies to be involved in order to implement an effective gender equality plan?
Yes, okay. I mean, organization bodies. I mean, I'm talking about here gender equality plan within an organization. So I think I mentioned already some elements. I mean, you should certainly involve your hierarchies. So it will also depend where you are situated, but it's clear that you should not just be left to, for example, human resources management. It should be also going into in the different laboratory, or I don't know how, depending how you are organized. I think it's really important, and you see that more and more also outside of research institution, to have some people identified in key services, departments, that can be a relay for you to get information, and also to pass on the message of the implementation. So it's why also in quite a number of event organization, there is an equal opportunity body that is created within the organization that meets regularly and can really work and ensure that the work is not left to just one body, but try to widespread throughout your organization.
Okay, thank you, Nathalie. We have few questions now. First, we will share again the Peer Toolkit link to the chat after this presentation. Then there is someone that is facing problems in their institution in leadership support on gender equality because they find a lot of resistance to have affirmative action. Do you have any opinions, Nathalie, in this matter?
Yes, I think this is really a big issue. Okay, so affirmative action, in fact, is a term that comes from the United States. I mean, so first, perhaps you can start to show to your leadership that within Europe we have a clear legal setup that talk about positive action. So, I mean, this is part of the gender equality strategy to adopt positive action. It's even in the treaty that you can adopt positive action. So I think first you should try to shift the use of the word, because when you use the word affirmative action, I think there is a certain weight there that can be in fact negative. So just switch to positive action and use, there is already reports as well on and a good practice on the type of positive action you can implement. In terms I had one.
Okay, yes, there is one question about a bit more specification about the resilience component you mentioned at the end.
Yes, for the resilient component, but I think that's why also we insist on the fact that the gender equality plans are set up within an institutional approach, change approach. So that means that this is not just a one-off, that this is something, it's a plan you start very systematically, then you implement it, that you assess, you can see it as a cycle. So in fact, I mentioned the implementation phase, and then you go back to an analysis, an audit of what went well, what's much more difficult. That's what I mean as well in terms of being resilient, in terms of pushing the action. I mean, we know gender equality is not a short-term objective. This is really important to always monitor and evaluate, and from that start a new cycle in your gender equality plan, and see where you want to focus.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nathalie. Thank you all for your question. We can go proceed with the second presentation. I am now giving the floor to Maria to present our next speaker.
Yeah, thank you also from my side to Nathalie. And after her informative and interesting introduction, we go straight away to listen to concrete experiences of designing, implementing gender equality plans. So the floor is to Chiara Oppi, research fellow at the Department of Law and contract lecturer at the Department of Economics and Management of the University of Ferrara. Chiara has been directly engaged in all the process of institutional change from the University of Ferrara. Ferrara is really one of the Italian renowned good practices in terms of institutional change in academia. The floor is yours, Chiara.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. I'm going to share my presentation. Okay, so you should see the presentation. Okay, so yeah, what I'm going to present is the experience of the University of Ferrara. We have started developing gender equality plans in 2011, so we have a quite long, let's say, experience in developing gender equality plans, because we started in 2011, and the next year in 2012 we started in mapping the context of university in terms of gender, developing our first gender report. So since 2012 we asked ourselves how we should promote an institutional change in our university, and we started first focusing on the context. So since 2012, we started a collaboration with the Statistical Office of the Ministry of Education, University and Research for the use of reliable data on the university sector, considering specifically the University of Ferrara. And then we went on trying to compare ourselves to also the European context. So since 2013, we developed our gender report. At the University of Ferrara, we develop a gender report each year, and focusing also introducing some of she figures indicators in order to be able to compare ourselves with Europe. And as Italian is a gender biased language, we started also to use a gender inclusive language, and to push this change also in the administrative documents that the university uses. Since 2014, the gender report is at the University of Ferrara is appointed as a permanent monitoring tool concerning the policies and the action of the University of Ferrara. In the University of Ferrara, it's one of the first universities to implement, has been one of the first universities to implement the gender report in Italy. That's why in 2015, we have been involved by the Department of Equal Opportunities of the Presidency of the Council of Ministers to the development of a gender report project for public administration. So for regions, municipalities, and for the university as well. So to drive some indicators to map the context in such institution. In 2016, we try to move on from the mapping the context perspective and try to see which were the results, the outputs and the outcomes of the policies put in place by universities. So we shift our gender report from a context analysis to assessing the actions put in place. And in 2017, the university appointed a stable scientific committee and a stable operating group for the development of the gender report in the period 2018 and 2021. And in 2018, the new statute of the university was approved, and the gender report became, the approval of the gender report became one of the duties of the board of directors. Now we are in 2019, and we are working on the 2018 gender report. Each year we develop the gender report concerning the previous year. So we manage the previous year data, and we will present next month the 2018 gender report. This year we asked ourselves, and it's what I'm going to present to you, because I think is the most relevant topic concerning the institutional change we are trying to reach in our university, the impact of gender report in the university governance. So the link between the gender report and the university governance, and with the programming and reporting documents in the university, in order to understand whether there is governance awareness concerning the possibility to use the gender report as a strategic tool. The gender report cycle we have structured in our university starts from mapping the context. I told you that we mapped the context for several years, and through the work of the university equality bodies, we reach the development of gender equality plans. So we have 3 years of gender equality plans in our university, and a university programming that takes into account the results of the context of the gender report for mapping the context. Then we have a series of actions that we put in place consistent with the gender equality plan, and then we develop a gender report that analyzes the outputs and some of the outcomes of the actions put in place. And then we go again to map the context to understand whether some changes occurred in our institution. So we adopt basically a 3 years approach. Consistent with the gender equality plan structure, we develop 3 different gender reports in these 3 years. In the first year, we map the context, so we help the gender equality plan in define its structure, in define the objectives and the action to be put in place. Then we have a second year where we develop a gender report based on a 3 theme, and a third year where we assess the action. Is the final year of the gender equality plan, and in this year we try to understand the output and the outcomes of the action put in place in the gender equality plan. Why do we adopt this 3 years approach? First of all, because this is consistent with the gender equality plan structure and with its monitoring objectives. So we analyze the context, we develop the actions, we develop the objectives, we perform the actions, and then we analyze the results of the action. Moreover, because these help, we believe that these help us in increasing stakeholders' involvement concerning the university policies. We are able to analyze more in depth the results, to drive a better analysis of the results, of the outputs and the outcomes of our actions, so to go more in depth. And it gives us also the ability to explore specific topics. That's why in the second year of the gender report, we have a 3 theme, because there are a lot of issues that we would like to deepen, and the gender report for mapping the context has a quite stable structure. We analyze students, we analyze the academic staff, we analyze the technical and administrative staff, and we analyze the governance bodies. So there is not much room for other analysis. And when we assess the actions put in place, we just consider the actions, analyze the results. So the second year, it's a good occasion to develop specific themes. And among the themes, I just listed some of them that could be interesting. There is, of course, the involvement of the gender reporting governance, and this is what we've done this year. Then we have the gender budget experimentation. So the aim in this sense is to understand the effect of the expenses of the university in terms of gender. So to analyze the different impact on women and men of the expenses put in place by the university. Then we would like to go more in depth in the intersectional perspective, just not limited to the gender perspective, and also develop additional surveys concerning the output and the outcomes of the university policies in order to understand better the stakeholders' needs. The gender report can be considered a strategic tool in the University of Ferrara in a certain way. So where are we? The gender report is included in the strategic and performance plans. Since the 2017, the content of the gender equality plan falls within the strategic plan in a specific area, that is equality, equal opportunities and well-being for those who study and work in the University of Ferrara. In the same way, the gender equality plan falls in the performance plan. So the performance objectives are linked with the gender equality plan, again, in a specific area. And in addition, since 2016, the University of Ferrara in the statute put its commitment to the correct application of the equal opportunity principle in the election and appointment of the university bodies. Due to the regulation we have in the University of Ferrara concerning the inclusion of the gender equality plan in the strategy of the university, through the gender report, we monitor some of these elements. And in particular, we monitor some aspects concerning governance. We monitor the composition of all university bodies to see if the gender equality principle is respected or not. So we monitor also the election and appointments of all the body for a correct application of the equal opportunity principle. We monitor also the respect of Italian regulation, so the obligation to reserve, for example, at least 1/3 of the member of the academic competition commission to the less represented gender. So we ensure the gender equality principle is respected also in the commissions. And we also monitor from a budget perspective, but as I told you, we would like to go more in depth in there. Considering the expenses in the university, we monitor the budget for positive action, the specific budget for positive actions. The national context is rapidly changing in Italy, in particular for those that refers to a regulation that announced the importance of the gender equality plan in research institution. For example, I report here some of what's new in the Italian context. In 2019, a national regulation reinforced the role of the gender report and equality bodies, increasing the relevance for university to adopt a gender perspective, to collect data on the context considering the gender perspective and present such data. Moreover, we have in 2018, the National Agency for the Evaluation of the University and Research System developed a report and published a report explaining how to integrate performance and budget cycles in the universities with a specific approach to taking into account the gender perspective. Again, there are national committees that are working to develop guidelines for the gender report in academia. One example are the guidelines for the gender report developed by the Conference of Rectors of Italian Universities last year and this year. The University of Ferrara has been involved together with other few universities in developing such guidelines that have been just published in last September. And again, at central level, example, I'm talking about ministries, there are experimentation about the gender budget. So an analysis of expenses from a gender perspective. Now I'm trying to explain better the results of the 2018 gender report. So we have tried in the University of Ferrara to focus on the use of gender report as a strategic tool. We would like to understand whether the gender report is actually included as a strategic tool by the governance bodies to develop the strategy of the university. So this is basically the cycle I showed you before, but is integrated with the most relevant planning and reporting documents of the university. So starting for the gender report for mapping the context, we expect to develop a consistent, of course, gender equality plan, and this is what happens basically in our institution. The gender equality plan should also affect the strategies development, so the strategic plan of the university, the overall plan of the university, not only limited to a part, but to have a broader dissemination in the strategic plan to affect all the policies put in place. This should affect also the budget. So the overall budget of the university, we have a 3-year budget and a yearly budget. It should affect both those budget, and then the performance plan, so the performance objectives, After that, actions are put in place, and we should also have a financial statement that is a report represented linking the results with the also gender perspective. Then we have the gender report for monitoring the action that should assess what has been done during the year or the 3 years period, as I showed you before, in terms of action, the results of such actions, and the performance report, so the result concerning the performance, starting again with mapping the context and analyze whether changes are presented in our institution. To analyze the role of the gender report as a strategic tool, this year we conducted a series of interviews. Now I'm going to present pros and cons that we highlighted in our gender report. We have a few pros and a lot of cons that I'm going to show you. Pros are that we basically interview technical and administrative staff that is involved in the preparation on programming and reporting documents. So these are those who create the documents that are approved by the governance bodies. The gender report appears to be a well-known instrument. Everybody knows the gender report within the university. And its relevance as a reporting tool has increased over time. The gender report for mapping the context is of course adopted as an instrument for developing the gender equality plan, and attention is also paid to the results of the action implemented. So there is a revision of the strategies in the gender equality plan considering the results showed by the gender report. However, the cons refer to the integration between the gender equality plan and the other the strategy documents, planning documents, because the University of Ferrara still present a strong separation between the gender perspective and the overall strategic perspective. As I told you, we have the gender equality plan that is included in the strategic plan, but in a separate chapter. This separation remains in all the planning and reporting documents. So the gender perspective does not pertain all the governance process, and the gender report lacks in be fully considered by governance body for the definition of the policies in general. The gender perspective is not considered apart from the gender equality plan. And so we have this strong separation that do not allow to include fully a gender perspective and to plan objectives considering the gender perspective, and on the other way to read the results according to the gender perspective. Again, we don't have a full commitment of the university bodies, basically. We have sometimes a commitment, but it really linked to the people we are addressing our question to. So not all the university bodies show their commitment toward the gender perspective. And we also find some resistances, not only in the university bodies, but also in the interviewees among the technical and administrative staff. So they resist the change, and so we don't have this gender perspective that is spread within the governance documents. There is a lack basically of bottom-up approach. We have done training programs, we have tried to talk with people, otherwise sometimes we got that there is a lack of interest in the gender perspective by those who develop these documents. So to draw some conclusions of what we have discovered through this work, we have an institutional change, in particular for which concern the governance processes and the involvement of the gender perspective in the governance process that has started but has not been fully achieved. There are changes in the national framework that should be addressed by the university and that are addressed by law. So the university statute and regulation are consistent with the changes in the framework, but there is not an actual change in governance. And the gender report basically is a tool whose relevance is limited to the gender equality plan. And the gender equality plan is a standalone document that is not shared and is not integrated with the others. So there is a need to increase university body and the personnel awareness about the inclusion of the gender perspective in governance. For that, we have started to think about the future perspective. How should we integrate the gender perspective and to achieve this change in governance? We are going to design surveys to better align the action included in the gender equality plan with university personnel needs. This to increase the personnel commitment toward the gender perspective, to increase their interest in this, and try to adopt, to create this bottom-up approach that leads also to a change in governance. We are going to develop training programs for the technical and administrative staff in order to explain how the gender perspective can be integrated in governance. And also we would like to focus more on the gender budget. So to increase, to highlight, increase the attention of the link between the expensive, so the budget, and the gender perspective. So push an adoption of the gender approach in planning financial resources. That's basically photo of the University of Ferrara context and the situation we are now. So I thank you for your attention. Here's the link of the gender report of the University of Ferrara that you can find available also in English. So if you can download them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chiara, for your interesting presentation and example of in your university. We have already some questions for you, and one is about, in your presentation you mentioned that you monitor the correct application of equal opportunities, for example, in the university election. How do you monitor it in practice?
We monitor in the election, both in the university bodies, we monitor the composition of the body. We monitor the changes in the university bodies. So we have in our gender report, for example, you can see in all the gender report for mapping the context, we have a sort of snapshot concerning the composition in the different years and the changes where we highlight the gender composition and also the role. You know that sometimes we reach a correct gender composition, but female are put in the lowest levels. For example, in some university bodies, we have a lot of female students, but no female full professors. So we also monitor the role of these components. Then, for which concern the commissions, we one by one we monitor the commissions and the composition of the commission, whether they respect or not the gender perspective. It's a really difficult work because usually the information system are not updated for that. So we have to ask people, administrative staff, to collect such data, and during here we have put in place some automatism to do that, because at the beginning they were not available. So we have to ask the people to reconstruct all the process. But now we have put in place these information systems that allow us to better monitor the composition.
Okay, thank you a lot, Chiara, for your answer. You still have a couple of minutes to pose your questions, so I invite you to write them in the chat. But we can also go back to one question of the previous presentation, in which there is a question on the examples on how to promote visibility of the institutional plan. Do you have any suggestion from your experience?
Sorry, which is the question?
It is above, it is from Violetta, and it is a suggestion of your examples of how to promote visibility of your institutional plan.
Okay, so we at the University of Ferrara, we have tried to promote visibility developing networks. We have started communicating with other institutions and also getting best practice from other institutions in order to understand how we can promote visibility. We have, let's say, three main areas to promote visibility. We should promote visibility inside the organization, and for that we organize specific events for the academic staff, the technical and administrative staff, in order to better explain the gender equality plan we implement in the university, and to present also the result, to report the results concerning specifically these two types of staff. Then we try to organize and also we try to send emails to the students and organize events for them in order to share also with the students the results. We organize events that also involve the community, so the municipality of Ferrara, the region, and to share also with them our experience. But I also think that it's really extremely important to develop a network with other research organizations. So we have tried to establish a network that is in place between the University of Ferrara and the other university within the region, and all of them develop the gender report. And also at national level, for example, the participation in the Conference of University Rectors group was a very interesting experience, because we have seen a lot of best practice from other institutions that we would like really to replicate in our institution.
Okay. Oh, thank you a lot. Time is flying, so I will go directly to the third presentation. I will give the floor to Maria to present Amaia.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much, Chiara, for presenting how gender equality plans via a careful state-of-the-art analysis and reporting can really be shaped as evidence-based policies. The floor is now to Amaia Garcia from the University Politècnica of Catalunya. We invited her to present how a gender equality plan already existing can be then be integrated, reinforced via an Horizon 2020 project such as GECO. Amaia is university professor at Department of Business Organization. She's part of research groups of her university on gender equality, architecture, science and technology, and was involved since the beginning in the first gender equality plan design at UPC in 2007, and now responsible for the GECO project in UPC. The floor is yours, Amaia. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you see well my presentation. Thank you for your introduction, Maria. Good afternoon. I'm going to explain you our experience in gender equality. And first, I will start with a brief description of our university, UPC, and also some data, just a couple of figures, so you can see our situation regarding gender equality. Then I will explain which has been our history regarding gender equality, which began in late 90s, And finally, I will explain which are, in my point of view, the key points for UPC reaching the right way, or I would say almost the right way for gender equality, and which are our current and near future priorities. And I will finish with some concluding remarks. UPC is an institution of research and higher education in Barcelona and other cities nearby. And it has three characteristics that are relevant for the webinar topic for gender equality. The first one is that UPC is a public institution, and this means that it must follow the regulations of public universities regarding its activity and also regarding the academic staff career. So recruitment and promotions must follow some rules, which is okay, but we have to take it into account. The second one is the activity field. UPC is focused on engineering, architecture, science, and technology. And as you may know, these STEM fields are male dominated. Already Nathalie said in her first presentation. So UPC as a global is male dominated. And the third one is the size. UPC is an institution with 18 schools, more than 30,000 students, more than 5,000 workers, 3,000 are academic staff. And this big size makes it difficult to reach everybody and to reach everything, to cover everything. I will just now present a couple of slides with some data. In the first one, we have the percentage of women and men for the different categories, starting from the students and finishing in the highest one, the grade A, which is the full professor. And you can also compare the situation in 2005 and 2018, 15 years after. As Nathalie also told you, this usually in most universities has a scissor shape, but at UPC, since we are in the STEM field, this is not even a scissor, because the percentage of women among the female students is already quite low, 26, 27% percentage. There are differences depending on the studies, but the average is this. And then, as it happens in other universities or all universities and other institutions, for the highest categories, the percentage of women drops. Yeah, this is due to different existing barriers and what we call glass ceiling. In this other figure, we see the composition of the most relevant decision-making bodies, which are the rector and vice rectors, the directors of schools and faculties and of departments and institutes. Then we have the governing council, which is the body where relevant things are approved. And finally, the academic staff recruitment and assessment committee, which evaluates the staff for promotions and other processes. What we can see here, besides verifying that gender balance rarely occurs, is that in decision-making bodies that are formed by appointment, which in this case are the vice rectors and this assessment committee, the situation in 2019 is even worse than that of 2005, or almost the same. Instead, you can see that for the governing council, for which normally groups of people join to form a list of candidates, we have already reached gender balance. Some general conclusions from previous figures and comparing also the situation in 2005 and 2018 and 2019 are the following ones. We see some improvement in the percentage of women belonging to categories A, B, and C. For example, especially in category A, because we passed from a 3.7% to 11%, below the average Nathalie told at the beginning. But there's still a lot of work to do. But this improvement is good because we see that things can be changed. Also, and probably as a result of this, we see an improvement in the group of directors of schools, faculties, departments, and institutes, and a high improvement in the governing council, which is one of the most relevant decision-making bodies. And I think that this is because having in mind gender balance when building a list of candidates has become a standard way of acting. On the other side, there is no significant improvement the last years in the number of female students. This, of course, improved in previous years. Since 40 or 50 years ago, it was much worse. But it seems that it has stalled at the maximum value. And this is a global phenomenon that requires actions from all society sectors to break the stereotypes at the STEM field. And finally, it is worth noting that those decision-making bodies formed by people directly appointed by the rector are the less gender balanced one. The good news is that fixing this is easy. Well, it's easy at least from a formal point of view. I am talking about gender balance in the composition of decision-making bodies because I understand that to include the gender dimension in decision-making, we need to change both the processes, but also the composition of the decision-making bodies. And I think that nowadays, at least at UPC, gender balance is not possible without establishing gender quota. And I know that this is a very controversial issue and resistances may appear. So here I would like to make you a question to gather your opinion regarding quota. The question is, are you in favor of introducing quota as a means to achieve gender balance and gender equality? And you can say yes, no, or if you don't have a clear opinion, the last one. Okay, 72% of this group are in favor. Well, this is not very surprising because most of you are already in this topic. So when you are in this topic and the years go on, you got convinced. But it's worth noting to observe that there's still 22% of people against it, because it's true that quota have some drawbacks or problems. Okay, and what has been doing UPC during the last 20 or 25 years? This is a very summarized image of the history of UPC in relation to gender equality plans or gender equality. UPC began to worry about the shortage of female students over 25 years ago. So in 1996, created the so-called Woman Program. And basically there were female students going to high schools to explain their experience. And also UPC organized some activities for higher school female students. The program required a lot of time and effort from many people, and the results the impact were not clear. So in 2000, the rector at that time decided to close this program. Then in 2007, with the Spanish law on gender equality, UPC created the Equal Opportunities Commission, which at that time covered both gender and disability. And now we have it separated, which I think it's good. And also in that year, got funds from the ministry to design and implement the first gender equality plan, which I must say that it was too ambitious and without clear target or indicators. And at the end, many actions were not done. But after this first experience, after this first plan, it came the second and the third one. And this, in the designing the second and the third plan, we include the suggestions and the opinions of the community. So we followed a participatory process. With the third plan, also, UPC started to expand the gender equality structures and networks. I will explain it later. And in 2017, UPC started the participation as a partner in the European project GECO, which stands for Gender Equality in Engineering through Communication and Management and Commitment. And after all this history, I believe that finally gender equality has become a priority for UPC, and this is very important. And a sample of this is the fact that since the 8th of March of this year, we have, for the first time, a Vice Rector for Gender Equality. As you see, we started to work on gender equality more than 25 years ago, but we had to go through a long learning period before reaching the right way. And now I will tell you which are, in my experience, the key points that we had to follow. The first one is make gender equality be a priority of the rector, since this is the way to guarantee that there will be resources allocated to the gender equality plan. And also his commitment and active participation are an example for the rest of the institution. This way we can increase the engagement of other people. And how has gender equality become finally a priority? In part, of course, is a result of our history and why not some internal activism. But I think that it has recently been really favored by the context. And here I am referring to both the national and autonomic laws and to the attitude of society toward gender inequalities. And also this has been fostered by the understanding of gender inequalities consequences. The thing is, before there was a question regarding this, making good declarations, or it's easy, but we have to go from the declaration of good intentions to the actions. The second one is organizing gender equality within the institution. For us, this is a requirement, because organizing things in such a big institution, it's difficult without a structure. But also allows the decentralization and facilitates the engagement of more people. We have at the top the Vice Rector for Gender Equality. Then there is a technical office to give support to the different gender equality plan activities, which now this means having one person and her head that has also the responsibilities. So I think that this is not enough for such a big university, but they do a lot of work, of course. And the previous one, the Vice Rector and the people of this Gender Equality Office, plus some academic staff, are members of the Equality Unit, which must exist by law. And this is an executive board in charge of making proposals for the gender equality plan and also supervising the gender equality plan itself. Also, we have the Gender Equality Committee, formed by many people, that meets once or twice a year. And also we have a network of equality officers. And this network is formed by people belonging to the direction board of the 18 schools and faculties. This way, the messages are spread to all schools and faculties, and at the same time, we get engagement. And also we see that there are some schools that organize activities for their people out of the gender equality plan, I would say. And finally, there are some people involved in the different working groups for the gender equality plan K projects. Overall, we have more than 50 people directly involved in gender equality. You would say that in a 5,000 workers institution, having 50 people is just 1%. It's not a lot. But 18 of these people are in the direction of the 18 schools. So we have people belonging to high decision-making bodies involved in this. Even though some of the people involved the last years had knowledge of gender equality, it's necessary to use tools that allow us to design, monitor, and evaluate the gender equality plan in a systematic and rigorous way. This is also a way for ensuring the sustainability. And here we are thankful to GECO, the project, because it provided us 3 critical things. The tools, mainly by means of trainings and the help desk in charge of Yellow Window and BNK. The human and material resources, which are really necessary because making all this in such a big institution entails a lot of work. And the monitoring and evaluation, because it's a work package of the project, which is in charge of the German partner GEPs. This allows us to correct and how do we things and also to improve the following gender equality plan. And besides GECO, I believe that it's a good practice to use the gender equality structures and in general to involve all the community in the process of designing the gender equality plan. Involving the community has many benefits, also for dealing with resistances and get engagement. And for us, it is very important to train the community, to build capacity, raise awareness, get engagement and commitment, and also to allow the sustainability. At UPC, we have been doing a lot of trainings, especially during the last 2 years. Some of them have been done by Yellow Window, which is also a partner of GECO. But now we have our own people doing these trainings. So we have seen that, in fact, we have built the capacity. The topics have been introduction to gender equality and gender equality plans, then gender and decision-making, academic career, research, teaching, language, etc., and also trainings on sexual and gender-based harassment. With those trainings, we have had more and more people sensitive to gender equality and even engaged. And also, it has the breeding ground or the seed for new initiatives, as for example, our innovative project on gender and teaching. And the last one is to focus on processes and structures in order to get an institutional change. Teaching and research activities, decision-making bodies and processes, recruitment and promotion, etc. We have still a lot of work to do regarding all these processes. And in the next slides, I summarize our current and near future priorities. The first one is awareness raising and engagement of both men and women, and I would say especially men. We are using communication and dissemination campaigns at different levels. We launch a survey every year to gather opinions regarding one gender equality topic and at the same time raising awareness. We want to keep doing trainings to include the gender dimension in our processes and activities to engage more and more people. And finally, we try to involve men through the gender equality structures and working groups and projects. The second one is to increase the number of women at all levels, because we have few women. Regarding the students, we are now working hard for giving more visibility to women, for example, using a hashtag in Twitter, but not only. And we have now also a project called Aquí STEM, which has the meaning in Catalan like we are here, and aims at increasing the number of female students in the following years. And in this project, there are many people from UPC involved, mostly women, but also there are high schools and primary schools involved. Regarding the academic staff, we are, for example, revising all the processes and making trainings to include gender dimension in academic career. And of course, we want to pay attention also to the working condition, and this means work-life balance, sexual harassment, etc. And for the decision-making bodies, we are analyzing how to change the regulations to ensure gender balance. And we plan also to start a mentoring program and a network of UPC women that has different objectives. But one of them is to empower women so they apply more for being members of decision-making bodies. Another priority is to include gender dimension both in research and teaching, and we are also already working on this. The part of the research is now being approached by trainings and talks, And for the teaching, which, by the way, here will be compulsory for all universities in the near future, we launched last year a pilot program to include gender dimension in teaching, and it was very well received, more than expected. We had 41 people involved, and one of the outputs is a guide that will be disseminated at the UPC level. And also a group of 27 people from those group of 41 has recently won a call for innovation projects with a proposal for including gender dimension in teaching and curricula with 20,000 euros. And the last priority that cannot be forgotten is the monitoring, evaluation, and sustainability of the gender equality plan. Some things we do or that are in progress are the following: the design and implementation of a gender equality observatory in the UPC website with all the relevant indicators to see how the situation changes and to monitor the impact of the plan. We make a new plan every 4 years. Well, it hasn't been always every 4 years, but the idea is to have a series of plans, and each plan is approved by the governing council. I think that this is better than having a stable plan that is being updated regularly without the explicit approval of a high decision-making body. We include the monitoring and the evaluation as a systematic action of the gender equality plan. And we also include explicitly as an action of the third gender equality plan, the design of the fourth gender equality plan. So we ensure that the process goes on. And finally, of course, it's important to allocate enough resources to the plan and in general to gender equality. Normally, this means working hours, but some actions need additional budget. And now I go to the conclusions of my talk. We went through a long journey full of actions that sometimes required a huge effort but had little or no impact until we reached the right way of doing things. I think it's essential to attack the problem from a broad perspective, and this means, from one side, working a lot with people in order to raise awareness, to get engagement, to ensure the commitment, to build capacity, and from the other side, work to change the processes in order to achieve an institutional change. It's very important to systematize the GEP design and implementation, making use of existing tools, and also making use of the community. And don't forget monitoring and evaluation. Focus on who or the people. We need more women at all fields and levels. On how we are doing the things. And this means the processes and the working conditions. And what are we doing? And here I mean basically including the gender dimension in research and teaching, our main activities. Creating all those gender equality structures and networks has had many benefits, especially for us being a big institution. And at last, we need to ensure the sustainability of the gender equality actions and the changes. We try to do things well to shorten the journey to gender equality, but for sure we will have to work on it several years. So sustainability is really important, also resilient. It's necessary also to give some kind of recognition to the people that is working on gender equality, because normally they do this or we do this in a voluntary way. And also to not assign always the work on the same people in order to ensure sustainability. Thank you very much for your attention. And I leave here you some contact details and links in case you want more information.
Thank you very much, Amaia, for your presentation and your interesting journey through the gender equality plan in the university. We have some questions for you already. I invite, as always, the other participants to type their question now in the chat box. However, we can start with this one. There was a gap of 2-3 years between the first gender equality plan and the second one. Can you explain us why? And also linked to this, you spoke about internal activism in your university. How has this been raised? Can you specify a bit more on this?
Okay, so the first question was regarding the gap. This was, yeah, between the I think if I remember well, because it's a lot of years, I think that we kind of prolonged the first plan. I mean that it didn't really finish in 2010. We kept doing things, but until 2013 it wasn't approved, the new one. Also in these years we had the crisis and the gender equality activity felt dropped. The other question was
about the raise of internal activism.
Oh, yeah, the internal activism is motivated people making questions in the university senate meeting, for example, also organizing different events. So it's like always the same people claiming for gender equality.
Okay. We can answer also to the other question that was posed just before. Can you specify some activities that you would recommend to start with the implementation of a gender equality plan? What is your experience in this?
I would start with activities that normally do not face resistances. For example, we do have some positive actions for the promotion to full professor. We have a positive actions that favors the evaluation of women, or we have a returning to research scheme after maternity leave. These are positive actions. And I would recommend not to start with those kind of actions for the first time. So some activities would be, besides analyzing the situation, making a complete diagnosis, this must be the starting point, but then trying to introduce the gender dimension in the activities. For example, in a university, in research and teaching, we haven't found resistances here. From the one side, because for the teaching will be compulsory. And for the research, if you want to win a research call, also you have to prove that you are going to include gender dimension. So people we don't face resistances here. And for example, also for recruitment and promotion processes, at least you can do trainings to show the unconscious biases and this. But for me, the most important thing is to get the leadership commitment, because of course we have had the apparently commitment for many, many years, but it was like good intentions. 2018, it was the first time I heard a rector saying gender equality is a priority. So, and this makes a difference.
Yes. Thank you, Amaia. We have a little space for this last fast question that is asking which is more or less the ratio of male participants in the trainings that you carried out in your organization.
Yeah, if we made a figure here, we would say that the numbers change completely. We have some, few, but we have some. Yeah, it's always like this. Also, we celebrate each year the Gender Equality Day. This last year we had 91 participants, but you see the room and it's full of women. So this is a priority to engage more men. We have some of them, and we have the rector, which is important. But we need to engage men, because maybe they don't show the resistances, but if they don't participate actively, it's not okay.
Yes, exactly. Thank you a lot, Amaia, for your presentation and your interview.
You're welcome.
I will now give the floor to Vasia and to Maria to a final wrap-up.
Yes, thank you very much, Amaia, and thank you also to all our previous panelists. I think that really the last slide from Amaia was already wrapping up in a way the common elements from the presentations. But from my point of view, what we really learned today from our speakers was, I mean, I put it together here on this final slide from my side. It was important to hear, especially from Nathalie at the beginning, how important it is to take the EU broader context as a reference point in terms of policies, but also figures, indicators, as a starting point to taking action at the local level in one's own research institution. There are figures available, toolkits, and an already rich amount of available knowledge and expertise that can be accessed in order to initiate a change process in academia and research. Then from Chiara and Amaia, what I retain the most is the importance of overcoming separation of gender equality plans and policies from the overall strategies of the university, or overall strategic documents and strategic actions of the universities. This was really clear from Chiara's and the University of Ferrara experience, where a gender equality plan, which is already embedded in the strategic documents, still presents some relevant amount of separations from the overall strategy. And then balance bottom-up and top-down approach is also very important. Amaia stressed the networks, the importance of acting both at the faculty and cross-faculty levels, engaging a variety of stakeholders, and the importance of setting up gender equality bodies and units at the university. And overall, it was highlighted by all our speakers how essential it is to monitor and reporting, to build gender knowledge and expertise, and also not to exhaust the existing gender knowledge and expertise, as Amaia was stressing in her final remarks, and make resources available for a sustainable implementation of gender equality policies. So before giving the floor for the last remarks to Vasia, I would just thank everybody, both speakers, participants, for your active attendance to our webinars. You will receive our registration, our email with the link to fill in a survey, which is very important for us to monitor the interest and the quality of what we do and to further improve. And we look forward to your attendance to one of our next webinars. Maybe the next one is already announced on 13th of November on gender in research and innovation. Thank you and goodbye.
And I would also like to say a few final remarks. And we hope that you enjoyed the first G Academy webinar as much as we did, and that you find the presentations as informative as we did. We wish that this is the first step towards a further involvement in gender equality in your institutions or organizations, and that this is, let's say, the motivation to start getting more and more involved. And in this respect, I would like to show you what's coming up next for Gender Equality Academy. There are sessions available for all of you, different formats and different topics, from gender in research and innovation, the following webinar on the 13th of November, to a workshop in Barcelona, Spain, dealing with resistances, that it is also available for registration on our website. There is an in-person training in Montpellier in France. The course language is in French, but the topic is really interesting. So if you're familiar with French and you know how to speak, it is on how to avoid gender bias in recruitment and promotion. And there is one more in-person training towards a gender-aware research organization, what you need to know but never dare to ask, which is in Bari, Italy. And there are more sessions that are coming up next year. So stay tuned, and we will announce everything on our social media and on our website. And last but not least, thank you very much for the attention. Don't forget there is an exit questionnaire, and if you have time, we encourage you to complete it right after the session, because we really appreciate your feedback, and we want to make our session better for all the participants. But if you don't have time, you will also receive a link to your email. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.